Hello everyone and welcome to my show, Fit Life, Healthy Mind and Body. My name is Natalia Katowska and I will be your host. This is the UK Health Radio, the world's #1 talk health radio. With over 13 years of international experience in sport and fitness, years of study, I would like to share my experience, knowledge, and most importantly, my endless love and passion for living a healthy lifestyle for my mental and physical well-being. On this show, we will be talking about fitness, sport, healthy living, nutrition, fitness facts, and more. We will be answering your questions, we will have guest speakers, and what's most important, we will exercise together. Yes, you heard me right. In every episode, we will have a healthy dose of exercises that we will do together. So we won't just talk about fit life, we will actually experience the fit life together. Are you ready? Then let's go! Today's topic is choosing security. How changing jobs from creative industry to 9-to-5 job has affected my mental health. People in creative industry are more likely to suffer from greater mental health problems. You would think people working in artistic, creative environments are living their dream, have the dream job. For some, that might be the case. But often, creative people are more empathetic and likely to be in touch with their feelings, which causes often more emotional and mental problems. Artistic roles involve meeting tough deadlines, working long and often unsociable hours, and for freelancers in particular, uncertainty around where the next job is coming from. It is a high-pressured industry, yet people are still concerned that opening up and talking about their experiences might have determinable impact on their career. Today we're speaking with Malin, filmmaker, dancer, and poet. Born and raised in Sweden, lived in London for 9 years. Malin danced in 3 different dance companies, written a poetry book that she self-published called Times Are Hard for Dreamers. She performed spoken word in Stockholm and London, worked as an independent filmmaker creating dance films and documentaries. She have had one of her dance films at a festival in New Delhi, India, and one at Film Festival in Sweden, where it was also nominated for the Best National Documentary. Malin, welcome to the show.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
How good are vitamin C supplements? Usually only a small proportion of vitamin C actually reaches your cells and has a positive effect. Whereas the high absorption levels of Goldman Laboratories liposomal vitamin C help maintain optimal vitamin C levels in your body and strengthen your immune system. Now get 10% off when you choose Goldman Laboratories liposomal vitamin C capsules. Just quote 10 off at goldmanlaboratories.com.
Do you suffer from pain? B-Cure Laser, a home-use CE-approved medical device for the effective treatment of pain, is now available in the UK. The results of a double-blind trial has shown that B-Cure Laser offers a significant reduction in pain compared to the placebo group. To get your special B-Cure offer now, call free on 0808 501 5122 or Google Radio Pro London. B-Cure Laser.
B-Cure Laser.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
Thank you for having me.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm okay. Happy to have you on board and so we can talk about different life matters as we always do, something important, something fun, something relevant, so our listeners can actually gain from it. So you're in Stockholm right now, right? Am I correct?
Yes, in Stockholm.
How's in Stockholm? How's life in Stockholm?
Life in Stockholm is, I mean, it's been, as you know, like pandemic. So we had restrictions. So it's all been working from home, studying from home. But now, just this Wednesday, they took away all the restrictions. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully things will get back to normal.
And similar over here. So slowly, they taking all the restrictions down. Let's hope for the best.
Yeah, let's hope for the best.
I'm glad that you've accepted this subject. Seems very, very chilled and normal, but still people are a little bit, I would say, maybe insecure to talk about it, or when they talk about it, they might feel a little bit like they failed. And the topic is choosing security and how changing jobs from more creative industry to more 9-to-5 affects our mental and perhaps physical health, So glad that you open up and you want to talk about it. So tell us a little bit your background.
So, I mean, I was born and raised in Sweden, and I lived 9 years in London, and then in 2014 I moved back to Sweden. But I have, as you said, like a creative background career. I mean, as a kid, I always played a lot of sports. I used to play basketball a lot and different sports. And then I got into dancing. So I danced from maybe the age of 22 till about like 32, 33, maybe something like that. And then I also got into filmmaking. So I sort of overlapped like being a dancer and also trying to be a filmmaker. And then I always also been writing. Either like I started with, when I was younger, I started with like writing rap lyrics. And then I went into more poetry and spoken word. And then when I was working in film, I also tried to write short scripts just to sort of see the process of doing that and see if I could do it. And I've also been writing short stories. And yeah, so like I've always been creative and sort of haven't focused just on one field, I guess. So always like try to just be creative and do what I want, which has been then dancing, filmmaking, and writing. And then now I'm studying to become a UX designer here in Stockholm, and then also working part-time in retail at the same time.
Yeah, so very, very creative lifestyle, isn't it? Everything connected with being self-employed, freelance, and nothing to do with set hours. The hours can just prolong from sometimes early mornings to late nights, because you have to edit something, you have to think of something, choreograph something. So how that shift from doing this for several years impacted you, if it had?
I think, I mean, something that I always thought about is that I'm like weird in the sense of way that I do like to have a routine, but then at the same time, if I have a routine for too long, I get bored, and I want a more unplanned life, traveling, having different hours and doing different things. But then if I do that for too long, I sort of want the routine. So it's difficult to sort of answer like I mean, I think as well, it's like now because of the pandemic, you sort of haven't had a choice in being the more freer, creative sort of lifestyle. So even though it's like, so it's difficult to sort of answer how it's impacted me in that sense. It's like, but I mean, yeah, it's been working so far. But I think it will be more interesting to see when I do finish my course and I start working and starting working that 9-to-5 job Monday to Friday and doing that for a while. Then it will be more interesting to see at that point, how is that going to impact me? Because even when like been working in retail a lot through my whole life, and then you never have 9-to-5, you always have different shifts. So so it'll be interesting to see, but at the moment it's like I don't really know, to be honest.
It's just this, I would think, retail job, because I've done it for quite a while.
Yeah.
It's just, again, a little bit more structure, isn't it? Because you come, you know exactly what you have to do, or someone is telling you. Then your task, you have those set hours, and then you leave, and that's it pretty much, unless you're a manager. But if you have some basic position, then pretty much your job is done. That's it. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
But, tell us more about your studies and what is that you study?
So this is always a difficult question when people ask you, what is UX design? So, I mean, I'm pretty new to it myself, but I'm going to try and explain to the best of my ability. So UX design is sort of user experience. So a lot of times today it's digital products. So if you think about mostly like apps or websites. Mm-hmm. So if you think about an app that you really like and that you think this is so easy to use, then that app has a good UX design. If you think about an app that you really hate, that you'd be like, oh, I never understand this, I just get frustrated, it doesn't work, then that's bad UX design. So as a UX designer, our job is to do research and find out what does the users need, what do they want, how can we put that into a product or into an app or into a website, and how can we, with the design, with everything, like make it the best experience for you as a user, so that you don't have to think about all these things that like, oh, where am I going to click? Like, where do I find this? How does it work? So it's basically making a seamless experience for the user. And it has you have the research part, you have the design part, you have something called UX writing. So if you think about any sort of prompts or texts in an app, that's also can be part of UX. So it's very like broad, and it can be, so it's like what sort of attracted me to it is that it has like a creative side to it, the whole design part and thinking and, trying to create new things. And it also has a sort of psychological part. Like I'm really interested in psychology and analyzing things. And UX obviously has that with the whole research part. So those sort of things attracted me to it. And it also made me feel like it's a 9-to-5 job, but it can also be creative in a sense. So it's not just what we sort of might see as a 9-to-5 job, sitting in an office doing boring things. So like, hopefully, it seems like it can be a fun profession.
Because that was my next question. What made you to choose this particular faculty, not anything else?
Yeah. I mean, it was also obviously when I was thinking about changing careers, and I was looking into, because it was basically like the whole pandemic obviously made you reconsider your life. I guess a lot of people did. Mm-hmm. And for me, then I was looking like, hey, what is always needed is obviously IT jobs, because that's how our society runs nowadays. And then I was looking like, hey, what sort of different jobs is there within IT that, I would still be interested in? And then UX design came up, and it's also a profession where there's like lacking of good UX designers. So there's like a good possibility to get a job when you do graduate. And it's also something that will be needed more and more in the future. So I think all of those things maybe be like, okay, there's a good job opportunities, but it's also something that is interesting to do.
Mm-hmm. Is that really the pandemic period that made you to really make that pretty much serious change, serious turn in your life?
Yeah, I think the pandemic obviously made a shift come, I guess, maybe sooner. Because I think I had maybe a few thoughts beforehand, but not as serious. And then the pandemic hit, and I was working in retail, and the store I was working for decided to close down all of the stores in Stockholm. So just in the beginning of pandemic, we all got made redundant. And then obviously trying to get a job in a pandemic was sort of impossible. And it sort of made me realize like everything, because obviously they closed down all the creative industries as well. So everything I'd done in my life.
I know. Okay.
Yeah.
Great times, good times.
Everything I had done, it's like being a dancer, working in the film industry, working in retail, all of that was suddenly like, it was not needed anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that obviously made me realize, and it was sort of a shock, you know, because as I'm guessing for you as well, it's like when you've done something throughout your whole life, you'll be like, well, of course, what I do is important, right?
I mean, it's the most important. Hello. But UK Health Radio people definitely can say that. Come on. No, but of course.
So, I mean, it was that. But then also I had a lot of discussions with my youngest brother and his wife. And I was sort of, you know, because they had started a family, they bought a house. My brother also changed career, like he's studying. And I think it was like a lot of conversations with them as well. You know, what do I value now in my life? Because what I valued when I was 20, like I don't value the same things anymore because I'm also a lot older. And I think what you value in life changes throughout how old you are. So
stages in life,
and it's like so I think there's a lot of things like that, you know, talking to them and seeing them, you know, starting a family and starting, you know, having like buying a property and all those things. And I was like, well, because that's also a security, you know, owning your own property. So that was also something that I started thinking about, that's something I want to do at some point in my life, having that security of having my own flat or house. And I mean, as a creative person, a lot of times you don't earn a lot of money unless you're really lucky. So I've always been, you know, not earning a lot of money. And you also get to a point, I guess, for me, like the older I got, is like, I don't need a lot of money, but I want to not to have to think about every penny, you know, what I spend it on. So it was a combination of a lot of things, but I think the pandemic brought it sooner than I think I would have maybe come to that decision otherwise. So yeah, it was a combination of things, but I mean, yeah, speaking to my brother and his wife like that, that helped a lot. And I know we had like a lot of long conversations about, you know, what's important and what do I want, what do I value, and yeah.
Creative industry played a big part in your life. If you can elaborate on that, if it still is important, what about your dancing, your poetry, your filmmaking? Is it still somewhere there in your life? And just what does it mean to you?
I mean, obviously the creative part plays a huge role because it's always been like sort of since I was like in my early 20s, it's been, you know, that's been my identity. I'm a creative person. So it's been a massive part of my life. And also when you like been in that industry for so long, as you know as well, it's like it's a different lifestyle, and it's different choices from someone that will just go to university, graduate, get a job and get a steady life. And sometimes that can be difficult for other people to understand why you choose a creative career and why you choose that lifestyle. But for me, it's like it's always going to play a part in my life. I'm still trying to do creative projects when I do have the time. And for me as well, it's like I don't feel that I left the creative industry for good. For me, it's like it's always there if I want to come back to it. But I also want to have the possibility of having a stable income and stable future. And I mean, even now, like in when I'm studying, I guess people still see me as a creative person of, you know, the friends I have there. But yeah, so it still plays a big part of my life, but it's not that I'm not working with it at the moment. But I still try, as I said, to have something creative on the side. So at the moment, I have my own, I have a writing project I'm trying to work on at the side of my studies, you know, just to sort of keep that creative, juices still, you know, flowing in a sense, you know.
Yeah, definitely. So it's not like you just abandon it completely.
No.
cut it like short, deep cut, like that's it. It's over. Like you just finished a relationship with a man.
No, I don't think any.
No, I'm gonna speak again.
I don't think any creative person that sort of gives up or, you know, chooses to go another direction ever gives up completely their creative side, you know. And I know, like my brother as well, like he used to play in a band and he used to do a lot of music, even though he doesn't do it at the moment now. I don't think for him as well, like he hasn't completely given it up. If he wants to, he can always start doing it again, you know.
Do it, yeah, revisit it.
Yeah.
So has your decision, and perhaps we can again touch upon pandemic and COVID, impacted your mental and physical health?
You mean the decision, how it's impacted my mental and physical health?
So, yes, your decision to change it, you know, then pandemic that stopped everything for you as well. Has that had like deeper impact? Or maybe it didn't have, you know, because I would say for me it had, but I wouldn't say some people gone through depression. I think I was low or maybe down a bit, but I knew I have to stay strong and it's going to be better and there's always way out. So that was for me, but I also deeply work on my psyche, on my mental state to be extremely positive in order to keep my body in a good shape. And my body, my brain is, you know, super connected with my psychic, with my mental health. So I deeply work on that. But some people found it extremely, extremely hard. As perhaps know, you know, the rate of suicides and depression increased tremendously. So did that have any impact on your mental and physical health? Because, you know, dance is very physical.
Yeah.
And making movies is also physical because you move around, you take your camera, you're just constantly going somewhere. And now you do creative stuff, but it's more of from the comfort of your home or just, you know, being more static.
Yeah.
So for someone who is so energetic and so on the go, I would like to hear from you how you feel about it. How did that?
Yeah, I mean, generally the pandemic, especially I think in the beginning, losing your job and then trying to get a new job in the pandemic was quite hard. I was lucky that I could go back to another job that I had as a mailman. So I was allowed to be outside in the summertime, and you know, I was active because it's like you're cycling around and you're running up and down stairs. And I think at that, like, even though it wasn't what I wanted to do, but I was happy that I had the opportunity to at least have a job, because I know there's a lot of people that lost their jobs. And especially as well, I think talking to a lot of my friends in London that, you know, they were not allowed to work at all, or, you know, there was restrictions like going out and all these things. And I think here in Sweden, at least we were lucky that we had a bit more freedom, which helped. But yes, then
dealt with COVID completely differently, and actually was one of those countries that didn't shut down completely.
Yeah. So I mean that obviously, you know, realizing I was lucky in that sense that I was here in Sweden. But then obviously, I mean, we had things happening in our family and family members maybe not doing so well. Mm-hmm. So that obviously affects you, you know, when you see a family member not doing well, like mentally. But I think for me, of course, it's like you have moments like when you feel low and when you feel maybe unmotivated and, you know, all those things. But I think throughout, I always been trying, like, I was lucky as well that our gyms were open, so I could go and work out.
Damn, I didn't know about that. I should move to Sweden for those 2 years.
So that's always something that I try to keep up, you know, going to the gym and keeping active in that sense. Because for me as well, always like working out when it's been dancing or training or playing sports. When I do work out, like I don't think, my mind is just focused on the exercise that I'm doing, which really helps me to sort of clear my mind and just leaving everything behind in that sense. So that helped a lot. but then obviously like now when I started school, just started this this August there was, and everything went online. You're starting a new, course, and you don't know anyone, and everything is online, and you're just sitting in your own house, like looking into your computer screen from like 9 to 4 every day, and trying to do coursework. It's difficult because also you're in the same environment all the time, from morning to evening, and the only time you might go out is like going to the gym for an hour and a half, and then you come back and you're still in the same environment. So of course it affects you. But I was also in the sense lucky that I have my part-time job, so I did always come out, meeting people and seeing other faces, so that also helps. But yes, I think I've been lucky in the sense that I don't think it has affected me mentally that much, the whole pandemic. Physically, yes, of course it has, because I haven't been as active as I was before. I'm still trying to be active though, but it's not on the same level, so that is hard at times. And I think with my decision to like leave the creative industry and starting this journey, I don't think it has affected me in a bad way, because I think when I did take the decision, I was ready for it. I had thought about it, I had discussed it, I had sort of made my peace with it, that, I wasn't feeling like I was losing out, because I've been in the creative industry for a long time. And I also know how hard it is, how much that can affect your mental health, all the rejections and all the sort of hustling and the struggling. So I think, I was ready to make that decision, and I was mentally happy with that decision as well. And I think that helped a lot.
From, leaving Stockholm, moving to London, dancing, being artist in London, then moving back to Sweden, changing jobs. Where was your family stance?
I think my mom, she's always been supportive of whatever we choose to do in life.
As moms are.
Yes, moms are, right? My siblings as well, I don't think they have had like any strong opinions. It's like they feel like, I'm free to do what I want. My dad comes from a more conservative background. In his family, it was very important that you have a degree, you have a proper job, you have a good job, like a normal job. So I think for him, because we all of us siblings have chosen, like we chose like sort of creative careers. I think for him, it was like, in a way, after a while, like I think he gave up. He was like, okay, there's no point. Like they're not going to listen to me,
Because all your siblings are pretty artistic, isn't it? It's like,
yeah, like my sister, she's a makeup artist. One of my brothers, he works as a graphic designer, and then my youngest brother, he used to like do a lot of music. Now he studies to become something within, I think, engineering or something like difficult. But yeah, so
you completely went against your dad's advice.
Yeah,
be a lawyer, be a I don't know, a doctor, police officer.
Yeah,
so went into creative industry.
Yeah.
Poor man.
I guess poor man. So I think he wasn't always supportive in that sense of my creative career, and also like living in London, struggling with money and all those things. But he wasn't vocal about it all the time, which sort of made it like, okay, you can sort of just dismiss it in a sense. And I think now he's happy, because now I've chosen a normal job to become.
Gave an old man some peace at
at least. Most of the times, like, they've been supportive, and I think also, especially like my siblings understood obviously my choices, like why I wanted to live in London, and also then when I came back, why I wanted to come back. So
was it important to you to have their support or approval, or did that really matter? Great.
Of course, but I think as well, like for me growing up, our dad was never that way. He was always like trying to push us in school, you know, having the best grades, and you could come home with a test and you had, I don't know, 48 out of 50. And he was like, well, if you had 48 out of 50, why couldn't you have 50? So I think throughout my whole life, you sort of course, it's like, yeah, you want his approval, but then you also come to terms with like, I'm never going to reach it. I'm never going to get it because it feels like nothing is ever good enough. Mm-hmm. And I think that has affected all of us as siblings because we're, I would say, quite like high achievers. Mm-hmm. We're really trying to do like well in everything that we do, like work, our passions, everything just to sort. And I think that has a part of it, that you're constantly, in a sense, seeking approval from someone that you're not going to get it from. So I think it's like it's a double thing. You know, it's difficult. At the same time, I'm like, well, it's my life. I'm going to do what I want. But also somewhere part in the back of your mind, you're still seeking that approval that you haven't got. But I think for me, in that sense, that I always had my mom's approval. And most of the times, like my siblings, as I said, like they might not have had an opinion or otherwise they've been supportive. So I think that has helped that I think it would be more difficult if you had two parents that were against what you were doing.
Balance it out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, I fully agree. You know, do you feel like that sort of upbringing and perhaps your dad's stance impacted your adulthood, how you view yourself, how you perhaps in creative industry, you know, rejections are massive part of it. Yeah. Did that have any type of perhaps impact?
Difficult to say. I think, I mean, as I said, the impact I think it has had is like me trying to always be better and better myself and trying to improve all the time. But I also think, because there's something also, especially when I did my own film projects, I always had as a goal with every project that I want to improve from the last one. And as long as I can see that I improved from my last project, like I'm happy with myself. Mm-hmm. Because it might not be as good as I want it to be, but then I also can sort of make my peace with it. Like this is the level I am at the moment. Doesn't mean that it's the level I'm going to be at all the time. I'm going to be able to improve. Yeah. And if that has, and that might have an impact from him, I don't know, but I think it's also something that I try to sort of teach myself that, yes, I want to be the best. I want to do really well, but I'm also need to accept what level am I at the moment. And if I'm here now, how do I get to the next level? And then I have to get to the next level after that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's very, very actually productive way of dealing with it. Because of course we all want to have the best of the best, the A's, but sometimes it's good to take a step back and just do that little analysis like you just said. Okay, so I moved from 0 to 2 and that's already an achievement, and let me take little steps. This is what I realized with myself. I've always been that person that I want it now.
Yeah.
You know, like I want it now. And then within the time and with a lot of work, internal work, psychological work, I just realized, Natalia, you're not that person that's gonna get it now. You're not this type. There are people who can do that, pull it out. It's just in their character, their persona is like this. But I'm more that person that needs to learn how to be happy with taking step by step and be happy with every little progression. And I just realized it's just that's who I am, what I do. Is I'm not giving up, but I cannot get it tomorrow. So what can I do?
Yeah. And I think it's also important because it's so easy to sort of, whatever industry you're in, if it's dance or film or writing or whatever, that you compare yourself with the best. So say it's like, if I want to make my own film or my own documentary, like I will look at a documentary that I really like and I admire, but then, so it's like, it's easy to forget, well, okay, but that documentary had all this massive crew and they had all this funding and they had all these professional people that worked in the industry for maybe 20 years. I'm just starting out. So my documentary is never going to look the same. And I think that's also important to like sort of stop and think to yourself, like, but I'm not at that level. Mm-hmm. I'm at this level. And then sort of still trying to achieve and still trying to like do your best, but also understand that everyone is at different levels, and the level you're at is not going to look the same as someone that's on a super high level.
That's right.
I think, when you sort of understood that, I think it's also easier, as you said, to do those small steps.
Mm-hmm. So, when you see, when you're looking at your friends who are still working or worked in these creative fields and still seeing them pursue their careers, does that affect you in any way? How does that make you feel?
I mean, first of all, like, obviously I'm happy for them, that they still out there.
You can be them. Tell us the truth. No, I'm joking.
No, but like that, that they still out, because I know how hard it is. And I know how easy it can be to just be like, I can't be bothered with this anymore. I'm just going to go and do a normal job. So I think I do like admire that strength and drive from them. Of course, sometimes I don't know if it's envy, but it's like I can sometimes, when I see, especially like on social media, and you see people like, in the studio creating or something, I can miss that feeling, and I can miss it, that sort of, because to me, it's like, I love that feeling, being in a studio the whole day and just creating and, dancing or filming and just being in that environment. And it's a very like nurturing environment and very inspiring environment. So like it can make me like miss it, and then it makes you think, it's like, okay, have I done the right decision? How am I doing? But I think at the same time, it's like then you also have to think about the whole lifestyle. There's a reason I left it, because of the whole lifestyle around it. Because a lot of times when you see like creative industries and you see things on social media, you like with everything on social media, you see the good parts. You don't see the massive struggle behind it. So I'm thinking, like, for you, it's like if you put up a photo shoot on social media, people will see just that. It'd be like, oh, it's amazing. Like, she's doing this photo shoot that looks so fun, but they don't see all the hours in the gym that you have done to reach that fitness level, or you getting up at 5 a.m. to get to the shoot, or maybe you being, I don't know, like,
not wanting to do photo shoot all the time, because we don't want to look pretty all the time. Hunt your muscles to look good. It's just hard work.
Yeah, and like doing like a photo shoot for 10 hours in a day, and like, as you said, like performing for 10 hours, that's exhausting. But they see that fraction of it. And I think, like, for me, like one of my personal experiences with that really made me sort of also realize that I'm not sort of missing it, because I think a lot of times with anything, like if you talk about like success in life, how do we measure success nowadays? It's usually through social media. What we see, like, and you'd be like, oh my God, like she's doing this, she's doing that, she's so successful. And then it's also like, who are you doing it for? Are you doing it for that like spotlight on social media, or for other people to envy you, or for other people to think that you're successful? But like, I think for me, sort of, that made me really like think a lot. When I worked at a film company, and we had this film called And Then We Danced, that I was working super hard on it, and it was like a super difficult process. And then we had the premiere, and it's like all the crew gets to go on stage in the movie theater, you get thanked and people applaud you, and like that's a nice feeling. Like, it's a super nice feeling. You feel a bit special and be like, yeah, I worked on this amazing film, and like here are all these people like watching me, and everyone else, the cast and the crew, and you feel like it's special. But then that's like a fraction of all the work surrounding it. And if you're just doing it for that fraction, I think you're doing it for the wrong reasons. Because if you don't enjoy the process behind it, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons. So for me as well, it made me sort of reevaluate the creative industry and what I want to do in the creative industry. Do I want to be in it just to be in it, but maybe not being happy with what I'm working with? Yep. Or do I want to be creative and do things that I actually want to do for myself? And I think that was also a big sort of reevaluation of me as a creative person, that like I want to do projects for me in the first hand. And then if other people, of course, it's like you always want that validation and approval from other people, because it's like if you create a film and no one sees it, what's the reason? But then at the same time, your first reason should be because you want to make the film, not because you want to win an Oscar, because then you're doing it for the wrong reasons. So I think that's also been sort of a big, and then it's also easier when for me, it's like when I realized that, it's also easier for me to be happy for other people's and my friends' successes in the creative industry, because I know like I made a choice for myself and there's a reason why I made it, which means that I'm not going to be jealous of someone that is successful, because I also know that that person's life is, you know, they're working super hard to get there, and it's not always easy. And I might not be ready to actually have that life that they have to reach that. So it's like, I think for me that like when I made my peace with it in that sense, and I know why I want to be creative, and also what I don't want to do in the creative industry.
And I think you partly answered another question that I had, which is how social media affects feelings about, you know, choices and mental health. So I feel like social media, which you just mentioned, is extremely, extremely important and has a million valid points. Social media can be an amazing, fantastic tool and can be your best friend, but it can be your worst enemy at the same time too.
Yeah.
And you don't know your why, like with everything else, but I think social media can get very dangerous on that side because of the mental struggles that we can go through, depression and comparison and a different aspect to it. So if you don't know your why you do things, and why you want to create dance piece, dance workshop, radio show, know, then that can get you a little bit lost in the whole process. And you, as much as we question ourselves on a daily basis, because we do that as creatives all the time, because if there is no monetary reasons to do something, there has to be any others, mental, physical, some form of benefit you have to gain from it. So I feel like if you're not getting it and you're not understanding fully why you're doing certain things, that might be really, I would say, dangerous these days. Because as we know, like I mentioned at the beginning, that the rates of suicides and plastic surgeries, changes of, your appearances, your persona, everything, it's just extremely growing all the time. And it seems like the social media has enormous effect.
Yeah, and I think it's like you're right. It's like I think social media can be great. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I think it's a good thing, but you also need to be aware of the dangers with it. And I think especially for the creative industry, social media is great, because it helps people connect and get their work out there. Like, you don't need to rely on funding to sort of, if you want, you can take a mobile camera, like I know, like we done a lot of times. We've gone out, we filmed some dance things. I edit it together, we put it up on social media, and we can get people to see what we're doing without any money, and that's great. But I also think one of the dangers with social media, I think, is that a lot of people think that they need to have it to be successful. And I know one of my best friends in London who works as a costume designer, she doesn't have Instagram. She has Facebook, but she doesn't use it in a sort of way to promote herself. So she doesn't have social media, but she's super sought after in her industry. She's working on really big projects. So that also shows that, like, you don't have to have it to be successful. You can also go a different way. So I think it's like, as long as as you said, like, your why, also why you're using social media. Are you using it just to sort of get the likes that will make you feel better? Or are you just using it because you want to show the world what you're doing?
Like you just mentioned, this beautiful word, validation. If you're using social media for any type of validation or overcome your insecurities, I think that is a never-ending story, and you will end up somewhere, actually nowhere, because that validation will never come. One day might come, one day might not, but it's a fake validation, because I feel like the deep validation should comes from inner of yourself, not from your parents, no siblings, no friends, no social media, no boyfriend, girlfriend. It's unfortunately is that tough work that you have to do yourself to work on your validation and tell this to yourself every day. Marlene, I've done an amazing project, you're great, and give yourself that little peck, rub on the back yourself, by yourself, and then everything else is an extra. But I've experienced that, and I think it's tremendous work. It's very difficult work to do it, but it's possible. It's possible, and then that gives you the biggest reward in the world when you feel like you are happy with what you have done and achieved, you know.
And I think, as you said, like it's a work in progress and it's a journey. And I don't think as well, you can't be afraid of maybe sometimes losing sight of it, that, you know, you get to be like, I'm happy with myself. And then maybe a few months after, you sort of go down into the rabbit hole and you be like, oh, I just want all these likes, but then you can come out of it again. So as long as you don't give up, you keep just working on it. I think it's, you know, and use social media in the good way, just to sort of share your creative work. And I think it's great.
Amazing. So, you know, with all of that being said, choosing security in your life, your version, is something that is a very thought through. It's conscious decision. Is something that you are fully at peace and happy with, and it doesn't mean, you know, you're abandoning your passions and your hobbies, but it just means you choose something that works both for your mental health, for your mental state, as well as for your feel of peace and I guess comfortability too, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's you know, it's a mix of all of those things that you mentioned. And as I said before, it's like the good thing is what I think about choosing the security in a job that will hopefully pay quite well, is that can also give you the opportunity to do your own creative projects and put some money into it, because suddenly you have money. So there's also something that I'm sort of thinking about. It's like, oh, maybe, you know, I can, you know, you take a month off work, but you have some money, then you can go and do a documentary or a dance film, and you can put some money into it and actually get a better product in the end than when we just go out with our camera and have nothing, you know? So I think it can also be like a positive thing in that sense, that it can help your creative career.
I fully agree. So what's your plan for next, for near future? Let's not plan it too much. For near future, apart from you doing your course, your school, and working, any plans to do anything exciting? Any projects? Maybe visit London? No.
I mean, obviously, I want to visit London. I haven't been there now for like a few years, so that would obviously be something. And then I have my own writing project that I'm working on. Some weeks is going better than others, depending on how much coursework I have. But I have a plan with that I, you know, once I reach my goal, then I will contact a few people that I usually contact for feedback and ask them to read. So that's sort of my creative goal at the moment. But otherwise, I don't really have any big goals, because it's like, I have a year and a half left of school until I graduate, and then obviously I'm working part-time, and then I'm guessing just enjoying hopefully the end of the pandemic so that you can start traveling and seeing people again that I haven't seen for a long time. That will be super amazing. And looking forward to spring and summer coming.
Fantastic. I mean, I'm very happy, very pleased to have you and talk about it, really, because it's important. It's important, and I always feel like we have super relevant and important topic on this show, and that's why this is my why. That's why I do this, to hopefully open some form of dialogue, show people that it's possible, show people that there are different ways of doing this, and it doesn't have to be always negative. We can have, you know, different ways and paths of thinking and come to conclusion and just show it to my 1.2 million listeners out there that, hey, we doing our things, we having different topics, subjects. So thank you so much for being with us and sharing your experience.
But thank you so much for having me, and thank you for like doing this, because I think, as you said, like you're doing important topics, and I've been listening to quite a few of your shows, and I really I enjoy all of them. You know, it's interesting.
You better.
And it's you know, it's like it's amazing people, and you get all these perspectives of life, as you said. Like we don't have to live all the same life. We can, you know, we're all different, and that's okay.
And we can agree to disagree, and always have, you know, those little confrontation discussions, and it doesn't mean nothing wrong, nothing bad. It's just to have this open dialogue. I think like it's extremely progressive thing in life.
Yeah, definitely.
So thank you. I hope to see you so much. Very, very soon in London. Maybe we can work on a project.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
And I wish you all the best with your school.
Yeah, the same to you with everything you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.